Emanuel Lasker, The Life of a Chess Master, Dr. J. Hannock. Emanuel Lasker, The Life of a Chess Master, with annotations of more than 100 of his greatest games. Foreword by Albert Einstein. Chapter 9, Going from Strength to Strength. Zurich Tournament of 1934. We shall hear more about it when we get to that part of the story, but the significant point of comparison is this: that old Lasker, when he went to the Zurich tournament, which was about as strong as the one at Nuremberg 1896, had no such illusions as old Steinitz had in the earlier event. Assessing precisely the enormous strength of his opponents and his own handicap of old age and infirmity, he predicted that he might do quite well in the first week, that he was likely then to feel the physical strain, and that he would probably still be good enough for the fifth prize. That was exactly what he achieved, not without playing one or two magnificent games and beating Yu, who was to win the World Championship in the next year. It was certainly a remarkable achievement, and while old Lasker wasn't particularly elated about it, he wasn't disappointed either. He knew that it was about the best that could reasonably be expected. But Steinitz, 38 years earlier, was deeply disappointed by being merely sixth at Nuremberg. He could not see that, for a man of his age, it was quite an achievement. He considered himself a failure and felt he had utterly wasted the nervous energy lavished on that contest. He was a nervous wreck when a few months later, on November 7, the return match with Lasker was started. Lasker won the first game quite easily, then the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. With a score of 5-0 and half his task accomplished, Lasker let up a bit. The next 3 games were drawn, then another 2 wins for Lasker, and 1 more drawn. Then at long last, in the 12th and 13th games, Steinitz managed to score his only 2 points. Yet another draw followed, and then Lasker made an end of it by winning 3 games in a row. Result 10-2, with 5 draws. Total collapse for Steinitz. His life had lost its meaning. The last game was played on January 14, 1897. Exactly 4 weeks later they had to take the old man to the psychiatric clinic in Moscow. Once again he recuperated. He returned to his second home, if he ever had a home in the USA. He made one more trip to Europe, and in the Vienna tournament of 1898 he actually scored a very handsome 4th prize, with only Tarrasch, Pillsbury and Janowski ahead of him and 16 other masters behind him. That was the last flicker of the bright flame that was Wilhelm Steinitz. In the Great London Tournament of 1899 he was nowhere near the prize winners, not even the minor ones. For the first and last time in his life he was unplaced. Soon after, he was found to be hopelessly demented. He had to be taken to a clinic, and on August 12, 1900 he died, leaving behind a family in sorrow and in need. Going from strength to strength 59. Such, in the last analysis, was the melancholy result of that rather superfluous second match between Lasker and Steinitz. It made a deep impression on Lasker's sensitive mind, and while his own position in the chess world was more secure than ever, he could not forget the question that had worried him when, as a youngster, he was first drawn to professional chess by economic necessity rather than the lure of the game. What's the good of it? What's the use of being a mere chess player? He was world champion, the supreme arbiter and idol of a worldwide movement. But when all was said and done, was it not still a mere game? The royal game, to be sure, but still no more than a game. Was not its own great historian Tassilo von Hildebrandt und der Losse quite right in saying about chess? An art in its form, a science by treatment, but in essence a game. And was not Moses Mendelssohn, the great philosopher of the 18th century, and no mean chess player himself, equally right when he remarked, "Too playful to be taken seriously, and rather too serious for a game"? Was a man morally justified to give nay, to waste his life for such a thing? Much later, in his Philosophie des Invalidbeer, Emanuel Lasker was to think out and to formulate such ideas. But now he had to wrestle with the problem in his own soul. What is victory? No satisfaction, but merely a commitment for further effort. What is a goal? Nothing finite, but merely a glimpse of the infinite. For 5 years, with single-minded determination, Lasker had driven himself towards that one goal. The World Championship in chess. Now that the goal was reached, it failed to give Lasker satisfaction, let alone contentment. Life was so rich. There was so much to be learned and to be done. Some new goal had to be sought, some new peak to be reached, a higher one, worth a man's while. At that time Lasker immersed himself more and more in philosophical and mathematical thought, forever trying to transcend from chess to those greater realms. He was rather modest about it, and he liked to contrast himself as a mere player with Steinitz, the thinker. Such a statement needs some qualification. There was certainly a bit of the player and the thinker in both of them, but in Steinitz's mind it was the player who got the better of the thinker and drove the man to perdition. But Lasker was fortunate enough often to tire of playing and to seek refuge in a realm of thought far beyond chess. Steinitz exhausted himself in chess and died of it. Lasker rose above chess to live another life in all the riches of the spirit. Steinitz was unhappy whenever he lost a game of chess. Lasker was unhappy whenever he failed to get away from the same. 60 Emanuel Lasker Game 4. Ruy Lopez. Lasker Steinitz. 9th game of the 1894 match, played Upper 14 at Philadelphia. 1. PK4 PK4. 2. KT 3 ICTQ B3 3. BKT 5 PQ3 4. KT B3 not quite so good as 4. PQ4 BQ2 5. KT B3 which Lasker had played previously in this match. While 4 PQ4 threatens to win a P, the text is relatively innocuous, so that black can equalize quickly. 4 PQR3 5 BB4 BK3. 6 BX BPXB. 7 PQ4 PXP. 8 KTXP KTX KT. 9 QX KT KT K2 10 BKT 5 KT B3 11 BXQ KTXQ. 12 000 KT KT 4. Here Steinitz shows poor judgment, since he will be left with a doubled isolated QKTP and a weak QP. 12 PQB4 13 BKT5 would also be unfavorable for black, but he could simply have played 12 RXB13 RXKT BK2 with an even game. 13 KTX KTPX KT14 BXP RXP black could have won the KP by 14. RR3 forcing 15 PK5 else. KQ2 PQ4 16 PQR3 KQ2 although even then white would still have the better game. Now, black threatens to come out a P ahead by RR3 15 BKT6 BK2 16 PQB3 KB2 17 KB2 RLR1 18 KKT3 R7 R5 19 PB3 RLR3 20 BQ4 PKCT3 21 RQ3 KK1. Position after white's 22nd move. Obviously a very bad move, but a difficult one to avoid in view of black's P position. The QP is now permanently weakened, and white can attack the QKTP as well. 23 BK3 KQ2 enables white to post his B on the diagonal QR3 KB8, but black must protect the KTP, for while already threatens RQ5 24 BB5. RR8 25, RLQ2 KK3 26, BR3 PKT4 27, RQ5 RKT3 28, KKT4 PKT5 in contrast to his weak and colorless play in the early. Going from strength to strength 61. Part of the game, Steinitz plays now with great energy. Lasker's play however is also on a high level. The object of the text is, of course, to weaken white's FT side. PS29, KR5 Lasker suggested the following variation as superior to the text. 29, PXP, RK830, KR5, BQ131, RXP, RR3CH32, KKT4, RXPCH33, KKT3. The move actually played has the merit of simplicity. 29. RR3CH30, KXPPR431, RQ1RXR32, RXRPXP33, PXPRR134, KKT6RKKLL35, KXPRKT736, PR4RR737, KB6BXP. Game 5 Ruy Lopez Lasker Steinitz 13th game of the 1894 match 1 PK4 PK4 2 KTKB3 KTQB3 3 BKT5 PQR3 4 BXKTQ PXB5 PQ4 logical play, for only in the endgame can white turn his extra P on the K side to account 5. PXP accepting the challenge of having it out in the center. 38 RXPCH KB2 39 KQ5 BB3 F 39 RQ7 CH40 KXP BKT6 CH41 PB4 RXR 42 BXR PR5 43 BB5 PR6 44 BKTL and white wins easily. Lasker's own notes 40 RQ7 CH KKT3 41 KK6 PR5 42 RQ1 PR6 43 RKTL CH RKT RKT7 or 43, BKT4 44, BK7, RKT7 45, RXR, PXR 46, BB5 and Wins 44, RXRCH, PXR 45, BB5, BQ1 46, PKT4, KKT4 47, KQ7, BB3 48, PKT5, KB5 49, PKT6 resigns. Lasker's best game in this match. Notes by Fred Reinfeld in DR. Lasker's chess career. An interesting idea, due to Frank Marshall, is 5. B. KKT56, PXP, QXQCH7, KXQ000CH8, KK1, best, RK1 recovering the P6, QXPQXQ7, KTXQPQB4, 8, KTK2BQ2. 9. QKTB3 instead of the simple development, a more astute mobilization results from 9. PQKT3 9.000 after his rapid and straightforward development. Black has already overcome all the difficulties of the opening. 62 BB3 KTB3. 10. BB4 11, 0012, PB3 thus white's majority in the center is held for a long time to come. 12. BX2 13, KTKT3 PKKT3 14, KRKL KTQ2 15, KLQ1 KLKT3 16, KTB1 with the idea of controlling his Q2, but all this regrouping behind the front demonstrates that all is not well with white. 16. RQ2 17, BK3R0 Q1 Black has massed his troops on the critical sector and, in the sequel, will demonstrate that, in spite of the exchange of queens, the endgame is not yet, and the play shows the sacrifices and other conceptions germane to the middle game. 18, PQKT3 PB5. 19, PXKT PXB20, PXPBKT5 21, PB3 BB4A. Position after white's 24th move. 22, KR1 RQ6 23, RB1 PQR4 24, KTQK3 making for Q5. He should have tried to perturb his adversary with 24, KTKT2 24, PB4. A magnificent conception, breaking down the king's defenses. 25, PXP 26, PKR3 RKTL 27, KTQ5 BXKT 28, PXB RXQP 29, QRQ1 RXR 30, RXR PB5. This resplendent pawn blockades not only the adverse KT but the whole trio of white pawns on the K side. 31, KR2 RKL 32, PQR4 KB2 33, PR4 KB3 34, PB4 BKT5 35, KR3 RK8 masterly liquidation. In the ensuing ending, Black holds the trump cards. 36, RXR BXR 37, KKT4 KB4 38, KXP KXP 39, KK4 BXP 40, PKT3 BQ1 41, KTK3 CH KT5 42, KQ3 KXP 43, KB2 KKT4 44, PB4 KB4 45, PB5 KQ3 46, PKT4 PKT4 47, KTQ1 KK4 48, KTB3 PKT KT5 49, KTR4 KQ5 50, KTKT2 PKT4. Going from strength to strength. 63. 51, KICT3 BK2 carries out the main ideas of 52, PKT5 PRSCH the defense, such as pressure. 53, KTXP PX KTCH on the open Q file and Co. 54, KXP KK4 operation of the two bishops. 55, KKT3 KXP but also by the economy of resigns means employed. A game which is impressive. Notes by Tartakova and do not only in the singleness of monks, from 50 master games of purpose with which Black chess. Game 6, Rai Lopez. Lasker Steinitz. Hastings 1895 1, PK4 PK4 2, KTKB3 KTQB3 BKT5 PQR3 4, BR4 PQ3 5, 00 KTK2. One of the many defenses which Steinitz invented, but which have not found favor with other masters. Nowadays the usual reply is 5. BQ26, PB3, PKKT3, or 5. PB4. More recently, though, Steinitz's old line has been repeatedly tried in tournament games, such as UKR's Hague 1948 RT. 6. PB3 BQ27, PQ4 KTKT3. Black gets an easier game with 7. PKKT3 8, RK1 BK29, QKTQ20010, KTB1. The mano over with the QKT was invented by Steinitz himself. 30. QK1. The critics are unanimous in applying to this move such epithets as bizarre, typically Steinitzian, peculiar, and the like. In reality, the text begins a profound maneuver. Black wishes to force his opponent to play PQ5. Once the center is stabilized by this advance, Black can undertake a promising attack on the Q side. Unfortunately, Black's KKT is not very well placed for the execution of this plan. But as we shall see, it is not on account of his bizarre moves that Steinitz loses this game. 11. BB2 KR1 12, KT3 BKT5 13, PQ5. Black has finally forced the advance of the QP and should now continue KTQL, as he did more successfully in one of his match games against Lasker. 13. KTKTL 14, PKR3 BB1 15, KTB5 BQL 16, PKKT4 KTK2. Emanuel Lasker 64. 17. KTKT3 KTKTL. The Deutsche Schachzeitung inclined to the opinion that Steinitz allowed his sense of humor to get the better of him in bringing about the present position. This imputation of humorous intent is, however, merely a sign of the annotator's laziness. It is clear that after PKKT3, followed by BB3 KT2, KTK2 and PKB4, Black will have a promising game. Position after Black's 17th move. 18. KKT2 KTQ2. Again Steinitz changes his plan. 19. BK3 KTKT3. The KT is, of course, quite ineffective on this square, but it is to be brought to K2. 20. PKT3 BQ2 21, PB4. Now White has the initiative on both wings. 21. KTB1 22, QQ2 KTBL K2 23, PB5 PKKT3 24, QB3, PB4. Overlooking the threatened sacrifice. 24. PB3 followed by QB2 KL2 was indicated. 25. KTXKP. PXKT 26, QXPCH KTB3 27, BQ4. But not 27, PKT5. KTXQP. 27, PXKTP 28, PXPBXP 29, QKL5 QQ2 30, BXKTCH KKTL 31, BQ1 BR6 CH 32, KKTL KTXP. This sacrifice loses quickly. The only way of putting up any fight at all was 32 RXB 33, QXR, KTXP 33, BXB KTB5 34, BB6 QQ7 35, RK2. The simplest method of putting an end to Black's demonstration. 35, KTXRCH 36, BXKTQQ2 37, RQ1 QB2 38, BB4 BK3 39, PK5 BXB 40, KTB5 resigns. Notes by Fred Reinfeldt in Dr. Lasker's chess career. Going from strength to strength. Game 7. Queen's Gambit declined. Steinitz Lasker. St. Petersburg Tournament 19. Deck. 1895 1, PQ4 PQ4 2, PQB4 PK33, KLQB3 KTKB34, BB4 BK25, PK3006, RBL PB47, QPX PBXP8, PXPPXP0, KTXP. Or a count of 9, KTXKT, with an attack on the B after the text move, though 9, KTXP would be ineffective. 65. QB1 would give Black a win in every variation. Position after Black's 18th move. 19. QRQ1 RBL. Having interfered with the 9, KTKB3 KTB3 10, BQ3 PQ5 11, PXP KTXP 12, 00. It would be safer to exchange on Q4 prior to castling 12. BKKT5 13, KTQ KT5. This attack isn't called for. After 13, BK2 White would have had a tenable game. 13. BXKT 14, PXBKTK3. 15. BK5 KTR4 16, KR1 QKT4 17, BKT3 QRQL. Opponent's natural development. Lasker now regroups his forces. For much the same maneuver see his games against Yanovsky, Petersburg 1914, and Rubinstein, Moscow 1925. CPP 181 and 250. 20. QKT3 PQR3 21, KTB3 KTQ5. A P sacrifice which should secure at least a draw. 22. QXP KTXBCH 23, PXKTR KTL 24, QXPR KT3 25, QB4 RXP 26, PKR4. Typical for Lasker. A positional maneuver combined with a tactical threat. 18. QB2 QR3. The point of Lasker's trap is by 26. KTK2 White could have forced a draw, but Steinitz evidently means to play for a win. Indeed, his position looks fairly secure, thus that the natural move 19. KRQL would now be faulty, inasmuch as R26. BR2 27. BK4 QQ31 stopping KTK2 4. Good. 66. Emanuel Lasker. And all and practically forcing the next move. 28. PB4 QQ229. BKT2 QKT5. Very pretty, since 30. RXKT can now be countered by QXKTP etc. 30. QQ3KTB4 31. KTK4 BK6 much better than KTXRP and putting paid to Steinitz's excellent defense. 32. RB3 Bessel RX by 33. KXR KTXPCH 34. KR2 KTXRCH 35. KKT2 KTR5CH 36. KR2 KTB4 37. RQ KTTPR4 38. RICT4 RR1 39. PR3 RXP. Resigns F40. QXR. Black mates in 4. Nor could White save himself by QQ8CH. Notes by Fred Reinfeld in Chess Strategy and Tactics. Game 8 Queen's Gambit declined Pillsbury Lasker. St. Petersburg Tournament, 4. January 1896 1. PQ4 PQ42 PQB4 PK33 KTQB3 KTKB34 KTB3 PB4 5 BKT5 the most aggressive continuation. If 5 BPXP KTXP with approximate equality 5. BPXP6, QXPKTB37, QR4 here. White misses the best line. Pillsbury subsequently subjected the variation to rigorous analysis for many years and found that 7 BXKT gives White the better game. This he demonstrated in his Cambridge Springs encounter with Lasker. See Game 26. According to more recent analysis, White's advantage is open to doubt. RT 7. BK28000 a risky move which is difficult to avoid. For F8, PK3, QKT39, QRKTL, PKR310, BQ3, PXP11, BXBP0012, BXRP, PXB13, QXP, QB4, 8. QR49, PK3 BQ210, KKTL PKR31 an excellent move. The Q must now remain at KR4 until the B is exchanged. 11. PXP PXP12, KTQ4 if 12, BQ3 000 would win at least a P and expose White's K to attack. 12. 0013, BXKT BXB14, QR5 White is pursuing a will-o'-the-wisp, K-side attack. The sequel clearly reveals the inadequacy of this plan. Either 14, QB4 or QKT3 would therefore be better. Going from strength to STRHNGTH 67. 14. KTX KT15, PX KTBK3 16, PB4 intending PB5, PKKT4, PKR4, followed by BR3 and PKT5 16. QRB1 17, PB5 he can hardly be blamed for overlooking Lasker's magnificent combination, but here 17, QB3 was in order 17. RXKT 18, PXB best. If 18, PXR, QXBP position after White's 18th move. 18, RQR6. 19, PXPCH alternatives are I. 19, PXR, QKT3CH20, KRLBXPCH21 RXB, QXRCH22, KKTL, PXP23, BK2, QK5CH24, KNE, RB7 and should win A. 19, PK7, RK120, PXR, QKT3CH21, KB2, RB1CH22, KQ2, BXP23, PK8QCH, RXQ24, BQ3, QR4CH25, KBL, RBLCH26, RB2, RXBCH and wins. This variation was given by the players in post-mortem analysis. 19. RXP20, PXR QKT3CH21, BKT5, forced, QXBCH22, KR1RB223, RQ2RB524, KRQ1RB6. The concluding moves were played under fearful time pressure. 25, QB5 the alternative 25, QK2 is refuted by RB8 ICH26, RXR, BXPCH27, RXB, QXQ28, RKKTL, QKB7. 29, RQ4QL, PQ5 and black has good winning chances. But it is not easy to see that after the text white must lose. 25. QB526, KKT2. RX Pi 27, QK6CHKR228, KXR black mates in 5 moves by 0.8. QB6CH29, KR4, PKT4CH30, KXP, QB5CH31, KR5, BQL, CH32, QKT6, PXQ mate J. Lasker's outstanding ComBJ native game. So competent a judge as Amos Burns said of the combination begun on the 17th move. One of the finest ever made. Notes by Fred Urbin Feud in DR. Lasker's chess career. 68 Emanuel Lasker Game 9. Ry Lopez. Lasker Steinitz. St. Petersburg Tournament 14th January 1896 1. PK4 PK42 KTKB3 KTQB33 BKT5 PQ34 PQ4 BQ25 KTB3 KKTB36 PXP PXP7 BKT5. An excellent move which completely refutes black's opening strategy. Either he remains with a weak, doubled and isolated QBP or else he must weaken his K-side with PR37. PKR38, BXQKT PXB9, BK3. The attack on black's weak QB4 will serve as the motif of the ensuing play. 9. KTKTL10, QQ3 BQ311, KTQ2 KTK2. Black has a bad game, but this position after black's 14th move makes it even worse. 12. KTB4 KTB113 000 QK214 PB4. Opening the KB file as a basis for future operations. 14. PB315 PXP PXP. The alternative. BXP would lose very quickly. 16. KTXB PXKT17 BB51 QK318 QKT3 RKKTL19 KRBL KTK220 BXKT QXB21 QKT6CH KQ122 RB7 etc. 16. KRBL. By means of the foregoing exchange, Lasker has not only opened another file for his pieces, but has induced a new weakness in black's pawn position. 16. QK317, KTR4 QK2. Black is lost. He has no adequate defense to BB5. If, e.g. 17, RBL18, KTB5, BXKT19, BXB, RXR20, RXR, KTK221, QQB3, KTKT3. 22, KTXP. Steinitz had, to be sure, the inferior game after the opening. But that his position should be definitely lost on the 17th move is quite a tribute to Lasker's energetic play. 18, BB5 BXB19, KTXB BKT520, RQ2 KTKT321, KTR6 RKB122, KTR5. The play with the knights is very pretty. Going from strength to strength. 69. 22. RXRCH23, QXRRQL24, KT5, XPRXR25, KTXQRQ8CH26, QXRBXQ27, KTB6BK728, KTB5BB829, PKKT3KTB530, KTXRPBKL731, KTB6KTQ332, KTXPKTXP33, KTXKTBXKT34, KTQ3KQ235, KQ2KQ336, KB3BQ437, KQ4PKT4. Game 10. Ry Lopez. Porges Lasker. First round of Nuremberg Tournament July 20, 1896 1. PK4 PK42 KTKB3 KTQB33 BKT5 KTB34 00 KTXP5 PQ4 BK26 QK2 KTQ37 BXKT KTPXB8 PXP KTKT2. If a KT has spent 4 of the first 8 opening moves merely so as to be displaced at so incredible an outpost as QKT2, I for one cannot but consider this utterly ludicrous. Nor can I see why such a mode of development should have been accepted as normal for many a year. Anyway, I consider it better for black to 38, PB4 BKT7 39, PQKT4 PR4 40, PKTS PR5 41, PXP PXP 42, PB5 CHKQ2 43, PR4 KB1 44, PB6 KKTL 45, KTK5 KR2 46, KB5 BR6 47, KTQ7 resigns. Lasker's exploitation of weak squares, a hypermodern stratagem, is once more in evidence in this elegant game. Notes by Fred Reinfeld in Dr. Lasker's chess career. Capture with his QP on his 7th move, since white's attack after 8, PXP, KTB4 9, RK, PQ2 10, PK6, PXP 11, KTK5 is short-lived and may well lead to a quick counter-attack. But an analysis of Showalter's has proved that white can obtain lasting advantage by playing 10, PKKT4 instead of PK6, such as 10. KTR311 PKT5, KTB417, PK6, PXP13, KTK5, 3Q314, QR5CH, PKT3 is KTX-KTP, KTKT216, QR6, KT3417, QR3, RKKTL18, QXP, RKT219, QR5RT. 9. PQKT3 first played by Lasker in a little-known game against O.C. Muller. 9. 0010, PKT2 PQ4. Emanuel Lasker 70. 11. PXPEP. This gives away white's opening advantage by consolidating the opponent's game. 11. QKTQ2 was indicated. 11. PXP12, QKTQ2 RKL. The R here threatens the white Q, and it is interesting to see how quickly that indirect menace gives black some decisive advantage. 13. KRKLBQ214, KTK4. This turns out to be ineffective. It would have been relatively best to retreat the Q to KB1, the only if modest place where she could enjoy a little peace. 14. PQ415, KT4Q2. The KT mustn't go to KKT3, since BKT5 would cost the exchange. 15. PQR616, BK5PB317, QR6. White just manages to avoid the loss of a piece. 17. PXB18, QXBPK519, KTQ4QB320, PQB3RKB121, PB3QKT4. One blow after another. Lasker plays the attack with great strength. 22. Q by KTB423, KTBLQKT324, RK3KTQ625, QQ1KTB526, KTKT3PKR4. Position after white's 27th move. 27. KT4K2KTX by forcing the issue with an elegant combination. 28. KXKTPXPCH29, RXPBR6CH30, KXBQKT5CH31, KKT2QXRCH32, KKTLPR533, KTR1QK6CH resigns, since KKT2 is punished by the pretty mate PR6. Notes by Dr. Tarash in the book of the tournament. Game 11. French defense. Steinitz Lasker. Nuremberg Tournament, July 22, 1896. 1. PK4. 2. PQ4 PQ4. 3. KTQ2 introduced by Tarash in the early 1890s and quite fashionable again in and since the 1940s. RT. 3. PQB4 PK3. Going from strength to strength. 4. QPXP. White presents his opponent with a tempo as well as the center. PQB3 was preferable. Nowadays one prefers 4. KPXPRT. 4. BXP5, KTKT3 BKT36, PXPKTKB3. There's not the least objection either against PXP. The center P is an advantage even though isolated. 7. BKT5CH. White can neither play PXP nor BKKT5 on account of 7. BXPCH7. BQ28, BXBCHQXB9, PQB4 PXP10, PB5 presenting black with the advantage of a passed pawn. But Steinitz evidently considered the isolated QP a source of weakness. 10. BB211, KTB3 KTB312, 0000013, KTKT3Q4 KTXKT14, QXKT. Since he cannot maintain the Q on Q4 he should have recaptured with the KT. 14. KRK1 15, BK3 RK5 16, QQ3 QRK1. Black has a splendidly developed game and will soon be ready for a K-side attack. 17, KRQ1 PKR3 18, PQR3 QKT5 19, PQKT4 PKKT4 20, QB3 QB4 21, QQ3. It is astonishing how half-heartedly steinitz almost invariably played when facing Lasker. 21. QKT3 22, QKT5. No matter whether white does or doesn't risk this adventure, black still has a very strong attack. 22. QR4 Steinitz fails to see the menace of this move. But PKR3 would further weaken his position. Position after white's 23rd move. 23, QXPBXPCH. 24, KTXBKB1 was the lesser evil. 24. RR5 25, PB3 of 25, QB7, KTKT5, F. Reinfeld, 25. RXKT 26, QB7 RR8CH 27, KB2 QR5CH 28, QKT3 QXQCH. He could have played 28. 72 Emanuel Lasker. PQ5 so as to capture the QR after 29 RXP. Whereas 29, BXP would have led to the brilliant RB8CH, resulting in either the capture of the Q or mate. But white could have played 29 QXQ, which would have been no more profitable for black than the continuation actually chosen. 29 KXQRXR30 RXRRXB. 33, PKT5 RXP 34, RQKTL RQB5 35, PKT6 PXP 36, PXP RB1 37, KKT4 KTQ3 38, KR5 KKT2 39, PKT7 RQKTL 40, RKT6 KTB4 41, PB4 PXP 42, KKT4 KTK6 CH 43, KXP KTB5 44, RKT4 resigns KB3. The rest is mere routine. Notes by Dr. Tarash in the 31, RQB1 KTK1 book of the tournament. 32, PR4 RR6. Game 12. Rai Lopez. Winner Lasker. Nuremberg Tournament August 4, 1896 1, PK4 PK42, KTKB3 KTQB33, BKT5 KTB34, 00 KTXP5, PQ4 BK26, QK2 KTQ37, BXKTKTPXB8, PXPKTKT29, KTQ4 0010, KTLB3BB4. The usual move here is KT, B4, no longer recommended because white gets the advantage by 11, RQL, QK1 12, KTBS, PB3 13, BR6, KTK3 14, QKT4 RT, 11, KTB5. This attack hardly ever pays dividends. Simpler and stronger is BK3. Best is 11, RQL, QKL 12, BB4, or 11, BXKT 12, RXB, PQ4 13, PXPEP. PXP14, P, QKT4, such as Schlechterity, 1914, RT, 11. PQ4. In this variation this moves always gives black a good game. 12, QKT4 BXKT13, QXBRK1 14, BB4 BQ5 15, KRK1. Owing to black's threat of PKT3 the KP required further support. 15. KTB4 16, QRQL. Had white tried to avoid the disrupture of his Q-wing pawn skeleton by 16, KTQL, he would have lost his KP after 16, KTK5 17, PQB3, PKT3, going from strength to strength. 73, 16. BXKT 17, PXBQB1 18, QR5. White should have swapped queens and continued RKTL. By relinquishing his Q-wing for the sake of his K-side attack he goes in for a reckless gamble. Position after black's 17th move. 27, PKT4. He might have continued the attack more advantageously by 27, RQ3, followed by RK1 and an advance of the pawns. 27. KTB1 forestalling PB5 28, QB2 PQR4 29, RK3 QB5 30, PB5. At long last white gets his pawns going, but by now his pieces are displaced and the black passed P has got moving. 30. PR5 QXKTP. 31, RB1 PR6 32, R3K1 PR7 33, PR3 PB41 34, KR2 PQ5 35, QB3 PQB3 so as to double the rooks. The P is taboo on account of 18. QR319, RK3 QXP20, RQB1 QB5. It is most interesting and instructive to see how black consistently disturbs the development of the opponent's attack and finally gets his own passed P to decide the issue. 21, RB3 KTK3 22, BQ2 RK2 23, RR3 QK5 24, PB3 white loses too much time. Stronger would have been 24, PKB4, QKT3 25, QR4, RQ2 26, PKT4 24, QKT3 25, QR4 RQ2 26, PKB4 QK5, PR8, followed by QK7CH. 36, PK6 PXP 37, PXPKTXP 38, QXPR2R2 39, RR1 RKBL 40, RB1 KL, KTK 41, QKT6. The Q had better go back. The K-Wing 41. R2KB2 42, BKT5 RB7CH 43, KKT3 QXPCH resigns 44, KR4 would be punished by QXRPCH, followed by a mate in 2. A flawless game of Laskers. Notes by Dr. Tarash in the book of the tournament. Emanuel Lasker 7-4. Game 13 Rai Lopez Lasker Tarash. Nuremberg Tournament, Final, 18th, Round 8th August 1896 1, PJC4 PK42, KTKB3 KTQB33, BKT5 PQR34, BXKT. If white can do this with impunity, as indeed seems likely, PR3 would be a pointless move. The exchange variation wax Lasker's favorite, and logically, when defending a Rai Lopez he favored the Rio de Janeiro variation avoiding 3. RQR3, Translator's Note 4. QPXB5, KTB3BB4, preferable is 5. PKB3RT. 6, PQ3BKKT57, BK3QQ38, BXBQXB9, QQ21BXKT. A grievous misjudgment, bringing disadvantage to black. PKB3 was indicated. 10, PXBKTK211, 000KTKT312, QK3. QXQCH not good because it strengthens white's center, but after 12, QK2 black could not have castled Q side on account of QR7, whereas castling side would have been dangerous on account of the open KT file. Black is paying the penalty of his mistake on the 9th move. 13, PXQRQ114, KTK2PB315, KRKTLKB2 castling was preferable. 16, QRB1KRK117, KTKT3KTB118, PKB4PQB4. The game is untenable. Black tries to provide against 19, PXPRXP20, PQ4, followed by PK5. But there is even worse to come. Position after black's 18th move. 19, KTR5 PKKT320, PXP. RXKP to take the KT would allow a mate in 221, KTXPKKT222, RB2PKR423, KTQ5PB324, KTB4PB525, R2KT2RQ326, PKR4PXP27, PXPKB228, RKT5RXR29, RXRRB330, PK5RB431, RXRCHPXR32, P04. Going from strength to strength 75. Better than KTXP, which would be good enough too. 32. KK233, KQ2PB434, KQ3PXP35, PXPKQ136, PQ5KQ2. Game 14 Rai Lopez Lasker Steinitz second game of second match Moscow 1896 1, PK4 PK42, KTKB3 KTQB33, BKT5 BB44, PB3 KKTK25, 00 KTKT36, PQ4 PXP7, PXPBKT38, KTB3009, PQR4 PQR310, PQB4 PR310, PQ3 would have been preferable 11, PR3 PQ312, BK3 KTB3 K213, RKL. PB314, QKT3 BB215, KTQ2 RKTL16, QRB1 PKT417, PXPR PXP. All that black has got to show for his pains is a weakening of his QBP18, BQ3 KR1. He wants to push his KBP, but it would have been better to play BK319, KTK2 PKB420, PXPBXP. 37, KQ4 KB2 38, PKT4 KQ2 39, KB5 KB2 40, PQ6 CH KQ2 41, KQ5 resigns. Notes by Dr. Tarash in the book of the tournament. 21, BX B22, KTKT3 RKB123, QK6 QB124, QX QKRX Q25, KTKT3 KKTL26, KTK4 KB227, PKT3 KKL28, RK2. Lasker has methodically cramped the opponent's game, his immediate aim being to push his KRP so as to gain the square KB4 for his B. 28. KQ229, RLKL. Out of a seemingly harmless position, Lasker has conjured up some mating threats, but by KTB4 on the next move Black might still put up an adequate defense position after White's 29th move. 76 Emanuel Lasker. 29. BKT3. 30. BB4 BB2. Obviously, Black mustn't take the B on account of KTB6 CH. 31, PR4 PR4 32, BKT5. The threat of PR5 has gained White a valuable post for his B. Now, KTB4 would no longer be adequate defense on account of 33, PKT4, PXP, 34, PR5 etc. 32, BQ1, 33, PKT4 PXP 34, PR5 KTBL 35, KT4 B5 CH. PXKT 36, KTXPCH KQ3 37, BB4CH KQ4 38, RK5CH KB5 39, RBLCH KXP 40, RK4CH KQ4 41, RQLCH KXKT 42, BK3 Mate. Notes by Fred Reinfeld in Lasker's chess career. Game 15. Rai Lopez. Lasker Steinitz. Fourth game of the second match. Moscow 1896-7, 1, PK4 PK4 2, KTKB3 KTQB3 BKT5 BB44, PB3 KKTK25, PQ4 PXP6, PXP BKT5 CH. Unsatisfactory, for later on Black's QB4 becomes weak. But 6, BKT3 would be even worse. 7, PQ5, KT, QKTL8, PQ6, PXP9, BKB4, 0010, KTB37, BQ2 BXBCH8, QXB PQ4F8, PQR3, 9, BR4, PQ410, PXP, QXP11, KTB3, QK3CH12, KBL, QB5CH13, KKTL with advantage for White, Alekhine Bagol above 1914, 9, PXP KTXP10, BXKTCH PXB. In his notes to the game, Ritty Marshall in the monumental New York 1924 tournament book, Alekhine comments on the remarkable similarity of the two games up to this point. 11, 000012, KTB3 PB3. Sooner or later the possibility of KTK5 will force this move. 13, KRK1 RKTL 14, PKR3 BB4 15, QRBL QQ3 16, KTKR4 BQ2 17, KTK4 QB5. A weak reply. 17, QKT5 would have given Black counterplay. 18, QX QKTX Q19, KTQB5 BBL 20, PQKT3 KB2 21, KTB3 KRK. The exchange of rooks is advised, for White is enabled to obtain control of the K file. 21, RQ1 would have set White a more difficult problem, going from strength to strength. 77, Lasker's handling of this endgame is classic throughout. 22, RXRKXR23, RKLCH KB2 24, KTQ2 KTK3. A strategical blunder. Black rids himself of his only active piece. Correct was 24, KT5 25, KTB4, BK3. With good chances. 25, KTX KTBX KT26, KTK4 BQ4 27, KTB5 RKT5 28, RQL KK2 29, PB3 KQ3 30, KB2 RKTL. Black's inelastic pawn structure cramps his position badly, and his B can force no weakness in White's pawn structure. 31, RK1 BB2. Position after White's 32nd move. 32, KTK4CH KQ2 33, KK3 BQ4 34, KTB5CH KQ3 35, KQ3 PKR4. The Q side was already weak. Now he ruins the K side as well. Passive resistance was in order. 36, PKR4 RKR1 37, KB3RQ KTL 38, PB4 RKTL F38, BXKKTP 39, RK6CH, KQ440, RK7 regains the P with advantage. 39, PKT3 PKT4. Again Steinitz misjudges the position. There was no direct threat and hence no need for immediate action. Against passive resistance white would probably have played PB5 and KTQ3 B4. 40, BPX PPX P41, RK5 PX P42, PXP RKT6 CH43, KKT4 RKT5 Black's moves are all forced. If 43, BB6. 44 RXPL, BXR45, KTK4 CH44, KTKT7 CHKQ245, RXP RXP CH46, KR5 BB2 white is virtually a P ahead, Black's doubled QBP being useless. 47 RR6 RQ748, KTB5 CHKK249, PR4 RQ350, RR8 RQ451, PKT4 BK1 to prevent RR8. If 51, RQL. 52, RXR, KXR 53, KR6 with an easy win. 52, RR6 RB4 if 52, RK4. 53, KR6. Whereas 53, KR6 is now answered by RB5. 53, RK6 CHKQL. The black K must go to the Q side, for it is obvious that white will soon win the AWP. 78, Emanuel Lasker. 54, RK4 BB263, RR4 BR755, KR6 BQ464, KTK4 BKT656, RQ4 JTB165, PR5 BB757, KXPRR4 or65, BQ466, KTB658, RKB4RR166, RKT4. Resigns 59, PR5 BR7 for F66, RXP. 67, 1 The ending is pretty. If 59, KT8CH, KQ268, KTB6CH, KQ160, KFCT7, RXP etc. Or 66, BKT667, 61, PR5, followed by P, KTB6R6R7 R8IQ. A much admired ending. 60, PR6BQ4, notes by Fred Reinfeld in 61, PR7BR7J, R. Lasker's chess career, 62, RK4BB2.